What's up, everybody? Welcome into the Canes Insight Daily podcast presented by Anajar and Levine Accident Attorneys. Take back control of your life with Anajar and Levine. Dial 1-800-747-FREE, 1-800-747-3733, and contact Anajar Levine Accident Attorneys. Guys, as you can see, it's only me today, so no D Money for right now. He's doing some stuff for the website, running around. So I'm taking care of business today. Obviously, yesterday he was in and out as well. But again, a bit of a slow news day. Gonna take as many questions as I can. Get in the comments and ask me. I'll try to answer as best as I can. Wanted to start with basketball here. So that's the news of the day here. And it's not good news for Miami, as anything basketball related has not been good news recently. And that's one of Miami's two signees from this class has asked now for his release. Ben Ahmed, the center, 6'10", top 75 recruit here, as Joe Tipton from On3 reports. And this was a big one for Miami, man, because they haven't really signed a true center coming out of high school that you could get excited about. Michael Nwoku a couple years ago was a good one. He was more of, to me, a power forward, and he's playing well at Mississippi State. He transferred after 1 year, so you couldn't hold on to him. But this was a big body, a guy who had an upward trajectory in terms of, just looking at his growth as an athlete, had shed some weight, looked like he was more explosive this last year in high school than he was when I first started watching his stuff. So he played in Connecticut at Putnam Academy, and again, 6'10", has shed some weight, was up over 300 and has got himself into better shape here and shed some of that weight. And for this Canes Hoops team, this to me is why you need to move on a coach sooner rather than later. And I think that there's a bit of a sentiment about that, because there's some jobs that are obviously opening up here across the country, and you've lost one now. You cannot lose your prize recruit here, Matthew Abel, who Sagemont Academy, and someone who is vital to, or Sagemont Prep, not Academy, I guess, but Matthew Abel is a top 30 consensus recruit in the country, a top 5-6 shooting guard in the country, a top 10 consensus player in the state of Florida, recruited by Bill Courtney, by the way, as his primary recruiter. So we've talked about this before. Whoever the new coach is, I wouldn't be surprised to see Coach Courtney, if he's down to stay here on staff, to see if he's continues to be a part of it. So back to what I just said, though, you got to move. And when I say move on a coach, I understand that you're not really going to be able to hire someone necessarily mid-season, but it depends. If they're going after someone potentially in the pro ranks, who knows if that means they could potentially step down from where they're at now. But that's just me spitballing here and being hypothetical. Canes Cassie 305 says Ben Ahmed was the real prize player for us. Man, I heard that they still think that Matthew Abel was a McDonald's All-American type of player. Like they think, especially body type wise, I think there was a bit of an attitude from some people that he was going to be more ready to play than Jaleel Bethea was this year. Bethea, obviously big talent, but we've seen some struggles, and I still have high hopes for his career, but I think it's been obviously a big adjustment and learning curve. Bethea after him. He said Abel will be next. I mean, look, unfortunately, you would think that it's trending that way unless you get the right guy, announced. And look, if it's someone who's at another school right now and they're the head coach, I doubt it gets announced, but there's going to be this Florida State job now opening up. That's going to be a pretty comparable job to Miami in the market. UVA, we'll see what happens there. I would think that they probably go hire a new coach. North Carolina, that's going to be a better job than Miami in terms of basketball. We understand that. So that's just off the top of my head here. they're definitely moving, right? From what I understand, things have been in motion, and they've gotten this thing down to a very, very short list here. So we'll continue to monitor this. Agreed, Kyle. It's going to be pretty much a total rebuild. Ideally, there's one or two guys you could keep on this roster, because I really don't. I really think whoever you bring in is going to bring in his new staff, or his new roster completely. But, and no, Canes Cat T305, UNC has not fired Hubert Davis, but I've actually talked to some people connected to North Carolina who were, I'll put it to you this way. The people who I'm talking to on Hubert Davis were very out in front of the Bill Belichick news, right? When people were doubting it. So they're telling me that it looks like that's going to happen. So we'll see what happens. The season has to finish out, but it looks very likely. Omar asking, has there been any leads at all other than Mississippi State? Obviously, we're in season, but not to have a discourse on leads from guys like Barry Jackson. The Mississippi State guy, I've thrown that name around, and it's not something that I've corroborated. That's not something that I confirmed. I think I mentioned a few weeks ago, I think a name that would be very interesting is a Chris Quinn with the Miami Heat. Someone who's been a high level assistant. I don't know if that Miami Heat assistants are too hot in terms of NBA jobs right now. Guy who loves Miami, has been here for a while, played here. And look, maybe see these NBA jobs the NBA jobs are just such a rotating, you're there for 2 or 3 years. And if you don't have the guys, it's you're going to get fired pretty quickly. So maybe the college ranks and running his own program and kind of putting that Heat culture, which quite personally, I've been on record as saying, I think a lot of the Heat culture stuff is a media thing. And man, I can say this freely with D-Money not on the stream here without him coming right back at me. But no, me and him go back and forth about it. Obviously, you have to respect what the Heat have done. But I think what Chris Quinn, if you were to come and try to bring that sort of thing here, that could probably work better with college guys in terms of instilling the discipline and stuff like that. And look, Kyle, you're not the first person to say no to NBA assistants with no college experience. And there is some credence to that. It's such a different game, right? But that's why I think like keeping a guy, if you keep a guy like Bill Courtney, who's a longtime college assistant, really well respected, obviously can recruit his butt off, is running the show now. So you have that bridge. Maybe you do keep a Bethea. He's going to have to come back to school. I don't see him being a guy who can go to the draft now. So why not? So I think you obviously would need to. You see what Belichick's doing at UNC. He's bridging the gap with keeping some guys on staff, bringing obviously his son over, but bringing one of the top assistants at Washington, who's a big recruiter, Armand Hawkins in the secondary. So he's making sure there's a lot of college guys on staff. Caputo, listen, I like Caputo, and I think there's a lot of people that do like Caputo, but you got to win at a high level. And like, there's people who are interested in this job. I think Caputo would be very interested in this job and take it, but George Washington has to win big, man. I mean, he's done a good job. He's turned it around. He took over in a very tough spot, but I want a coach who's won big at this point. I think Chris could do a good job here, but I don't know that he's the focus of the search right now. So that's what I'll say. Jans from Mississippi State. I mean, he's doing a heck of a job. I don't doubt that. I think he'd be a great hire, but we'll see, man. It's a very this job is in a different spot than when Larranaga took over. I've said this. There's a real path or a blueprint. It's NIL era now, but we've done it in the NIL era, right? Even though Coach L was reluctant to continue to do it, Miami has won in this era. And when I say won, not the national championship, but they've gone to the Final Four, which is as close to, an accomplishment that you can really hang your hat on in this sport that's not a championship as there is. So they've done it there. They did it early on in Larranaga's tenure. So when the ACC was even stronger than what it is right now. So NIL wise, Miami's in a very good position. So I'm not saying that they're spending the most in the ACC in terms of basketball, but Canes Connection, as you guys know, and you guys are a part of and can continue to make stronger just by going to canesconnection.com/CIS. But Miami has shown the ability, as you see with getting a top 10 recruiting class last year. You're not getting those sort of top classes without having the money to spend here NIL wise. So the new coach, whoever it may be, sees that from the outside looking in, and we'll see. Kyle says, can we aim high like Patino, Jay Wright, Chris Yan, Shaka Smart? Listen, I'm down for any of these guys. Patino and Wright, Patino, I don't know why he'd leave St. John's. He has a pretty good thing going up there right now. Obviously, Miami could probably offer him a nice deal, and that could be part of it. But Jay Wright, not sure he wants to get back into it. He seems pretty happy. I do think that's an intriguing option. That was one of the first names I said when it first became available. And then the other two, Jans and Smart, I'd take in a heartbeat as well. But we'll see, man. It's interesting. I think the idea of a Chris Quinn at its peak would be very, very intriguing. And Nigel Pack has been hurt. He's been with the team. He had a boot on his I don't know if it was a foot or an ankle or what it was, but he's been rehabbing. So we'll see what happens there. But as always, guys, I wanted to remind you that the basketball coverage is brought to you by Aries Law, the best in estate planning here in South Florida. And look, guys, this is my dad. You can get your free consultation set up, arieslawpa.com. You can do it virtually or in person. His office, as you see here on Coral Way, headed towards Brickell there in Coral Gables. So go check it out, Aries Law PA. Again, if you're a father, mother, parent, grandparent, you have a family, planning your future is very important. You have to do it. It's not something we like to talk about, but it is very important. So, guys, oh wow, hold on a second. Let me get my headset on here. We got a special guest, and let me tell you something. I don't know if he must have heard. This guy must have heard what I was saying a little while ago here.
What'd you say?
Hold on a second.
Can't say it in front of my face now. What's going on?
I can say it. We were just talking about the Miami Heat culture and how I said that it's a bit of a media creation, but that I would be very open to a certain assistant coach from the Heat for coming to the program and leading us.
Yeah, it's one thing to talk about it, and then when you get a chance to get part of this Heat culture at the University of Miami, you're all about it. So funny how the talking is different from what you actually care about. So I'm glad you at least admitted that you'd be a hell of an ad. Get that Heat culture there. We got Andrew Wiggins now. Going to make a nice little run here. One of the best young cores in the Eastern Conference. Fired up.
Andrew Wiggins, didn't his parents go to Florida State?
Did they really?
Yeah. I think he almost went to Florida State coming out, believe it or not.
Glad he didn't. Got a question here about Canes Cat Heat 305, the baseball scrimmage. Yeah, I was out there yesterday. It wasn't anything too exciting. Giroux was pitching, the right-hander from Hawaii. Maybe, candidate for the midweek. Not somebody who throws with a ton of velocity, but a strike thrower. He got some swings and misses, some strikeouts, but also got hit pretty good. Cuvée hit a homer that still hasn't landed over the net in left field, pretty much over the scoreboard and deep. That's Daniel Cuvée. And Derek Williams, the right-hand hitter from Wichita State, the right fielder, hit a home run as well, as did Fabio Peralta, the lefty center fielder. So a few home runs. Giroux's going to have to adjust to the ACC. He was very, very productive in Hawaii. Throws a lot of strikes, but not the hardest thrower in the world. So just still adjusting. Got a couple of weeks. Well, really not even. We got 8 days till we get rolling here with Canes baseball. So looking at the form. I was excited to hear Pete. We've in our group, our baseball group chats filled with all Cubans. We're always trying to figure out Cuvé's nationality to see if we can claim him. And I found out that Daniel Cuvée, the All-America third baseman for Canes baseball, is actually Basque, from the Basque region. His dad's a highlight player from the French side of Basque. And his
Yes, I
mom
can claim him.
his mom is the daughter of a Basque player, of a highlight player from the Spanish side of Basque.
Are you Basque as well?
I don't think so. My family's Canary Islands.
All right. Yeah. Well, that's my background, so I can claim him for once.
There you go. Talked to him at the game after he hits a couple of home runs. Valentine's Day. Let's see if I get the plug here. I'll save the plug, but it's gonna be fun.
Canes Cat C305 says biggest battles center field.
I like Mikey Torres there. I like Mikey Torres there just because of the defense is as good as it gets. I think JD said he's the best defensive center fielder since 2006, 2005. So I mean, he's pretty special in that respect. So I'm a fan of the defense. Mayor, let's do the plug. Time is running out. Miami Hurricanes baseball season tickets are on sale, but only until February 14th. That is 8 days away. For just $175, lock in your spot for all 32 home games at Alex Rodriguez Park at Mark Light Field. Do not miss marquee matchups against UConn, FSU, Duke, Georgia Tech, NC State, and Notre Dame. Experience the thrill of the U, the legendary Mark Light Shakes, and the wild energy of the Miami Maniac. Secure your seats before they're gone. Visit MiamiHurricanes.com or call 1-800-GO-CANES today. Also got FanFest on Saturday, FanFest at 2:30, all free, family fun, autographs, alumni game at 6. See you out there.
Guys, remember to drop your questions in here about obviously whatever sport. But yeah, D, we were talking basketball. Trenton Bree says, any chance Andrew Moran could come onto the coaching staff? He would help a lot. He would help the staff. So that's the coach at Columbus.
Yeah.
Obviously
he trains a lot of pros too, right?
Yeah. So he's done a great job at Columbus, just building that team. Like, it's his background's cool because not only has he shown he can build like a winning team, but the skill and development side, he's one of the top draft prep guys in the country. Like, I might be quoting this. I might have the names wrong, but he did like Cade Cunningham's pre-draft prep. He's done like top picks. So without a doubt, I mentioned Jack McClinton recently as like a support staff, coaching staff member, someone that is outside of the main person that we all talk about. Because in basketball, I feel like it's different. We focus on the head coach and we don't really think so much about these other coaches like we do in football. Because in football, we hire a coach and we think, oh, wow, we're getting all the recruits now because they just hired this guy. And it's not really that case, but there could be an impact made. Moran, to me, it would be a slam dunk, no-brainer hire. Obviously, it doesn't mean you're going to get the Boozer kids or anything. They're headed to Duke. But he's shown, again, there's a lot of these coaches who are just like, oh, well, I'm a trainer. I'm around these guys. Dude, these guys were going to be studs with or without your training. I'm not saying I think he's a phenomenal trainer and skills guy, but like to show that he can actually coach a team too, he's done it in both ways. So without a doubt, to me, deserves a spot on staff.
Listen, I think that'd be interesting, thinking outside the box. We'll see. I mean, I think it all depends on the head man, right? So you start with the head man and you work down from there and see what his relationships are, his view on the way he operates. I think we just got to.
Yeah, I'm hiring staffers without a head coach, but I just think regardless, these are guys that regardless who the head coach is, like you need to have a couple of these guys on staff that all bring something, add a different value to the table. And yes, the new coach is gonna bring their own guys, but you need to have some people with ties or with roots to the situation. And I think they would both be nice potential ads.
Yeah, South Florida basketball definitely better than it's been when I was growing up. Pete, pull up I sent you a link here.
Yeah.
So CanesInsight.com, for those of you who don't know by now, and you should, 7 million posts and counting, the biggest Canes community on the planet, free. Sign up, message boards go crazy. And one thing I like to do, especially now, February, kind of a slower month in terms of recruit, everything, recruiting starting to pick up here after the dead period. But like to pose these daily questions. The question today that we posed, and we got a lot of responses: what second-year player will make the biggest leap from year one to year 2. If you guys have comments in the chat, let us know. Pete, what do you think as far as what second-year player, meaning freshman from the class of 24, we'll include Markel Bell in there as a JUCO guy, will make the biggest leap from year 1 to year 2?
Let me think. I think it'll be a defensive guy, just because I think there's a lot more room to grow on that side of the ball. Let me think. Let's say one of these young pass rushers, Booker Pickett.
Booker Pickett with some added weight. We saw him flash in the Duke game. That's a good choice. JoJo Trader's another one. To me, let's go before I get to mine. We got Marquise Lightfoot, Canes Cat Heat 305. I saw him today, actually, on campus. I just got back from campus. He was walking around. Still light, but very, he's with the coaches, engaged, tough player, super fast. He has a lot of skills. Kyle saying Jordan Lyle, JoJo Trader, Elijah Lofton, Justin Scott. We'd love to have those guys. But this right here, Hrvatsky's got mine, which is Armando Blunt or JoJo. I am going with Armando Blunt. I just think when it's, I always say it I went around youth sports all the time because my kids playing sports. The younger you are, that year is bigger because it's a bigger proportion of your age. So going from 3 to 4, that's a fourth of your life, right? At that time. So Armando Blunt was 17. I think he's still 17 years old. Maybe he turns 18 in June. Maybe he's super young. So a year development when you're that young is monumental, especially when you got to school early and everything's kind of coming fast. He was injured as well. Got here in spring, but was injured. I believe he won some crazy academic award. He's one of the smartest players we've signed in a long, long time. Was the valedictorian, I believe, of his high school. He went to Central, but he had like a special high school that he went to. So the guy's IQ is off the charts. Pete, pull up the tweet I just sent you. But this guy's IQ is off the charts. Super explosive. Won the state championship in the throwing events as, I believe, a shot put champion as a freshman in high school. Ran 4.8 on the lasers. Super productive. Question with him is always going to be D tackle or DN. It looks like he's settling into being that big 6'4", 275 DN. There you see the award he won, the National Society of Leadership and Success from the University of Miami. So this guy's just an academic stud. His mom posted the picture there. I don't see a way he doesn't succeed. He's got the total package. He's done really, really well in practice. He's had limited opportunities in the games, but having the lingering injuries, plus being 17 years old and playing a man's position and having a lot of veterans there, I think that limited him. Now, a lot more pressure to play. He's settling into me as that big defensive end. I could see him being a truly impactful player here in year 2.
Did you catch this? Got the Croatian flag here, man. We really are worldwide on Canes Insight.
Hrvatsky, stand up. Looks nice out there, man. I'm guessing that is Croatia. We got to get out there. Look at that water.
Hey, man. Josko Guardiola, one of my favorite players in the Premier League. I agree with this comment here by Canes Cat C305. Would have been Bobby Washington, but he got hurt. I think there was people who really thought that he was about to, turn the corner. In terms of he ends up staying, right? His brother leaves, he stays. Like that showed people a lot that he didn't just say, you know what, I'm going to end up going with my brother. And he's still recovering from this knee injury that he got in bowl prep. I saw him actually the other day on campus going around in a golf cart still with the brace on. So, long road to recovery for him. That one really was annoying because he literally got hurt the day after he announced that he was staying, or like the day that he announced he was staying. It was really unfortunate. Yeah,
that timing sucked. It really did. It's sad, and hope he gets back to where he is because he has a lot of speed, a lot of talent. Question here from Juan Manuel Ventura: is Brock Shaw going to make an impact in 2025? How and what ways can he make an impact? I would say yes. He's here early. I mean, they all are here early, so that's going to help them all, aside from Bryce Fitzgerald, who his school doesn't let him get here early. With Brock, he's adjusting big-time level of competition. He's coming from Indiana, and a small town in Indiana, so the competition is not that great. He did exactly what he's supposed to do against the competition and completely dominated, but there's an adjustment. So with him, weight room-wise, he's ahead of schedule. I've heard he's a beast in the weight room. He's really fast. He tests well. Super tough. So to me, special teams, I think for sure with him, just because he doesn't mind hitting, he's really fast and he's got a strong body. I would say, and he's in that size at 6'3", 240. 235. He's in that range of guys that contribute on special teams with his running 4.6. So I think that's kind of a way to get him on the field. And then if Lofton either takes more of the Arroyo role or is running the ball and playing even more in the backfield, or both, maybe Brock Shaw can be more that Lofton role last year, where he's like an H-back that comes in, fills that spot, whereas as Lofton moves up, because they are similar in terms of height, but different players, but they both have receiving ability that could stretch out wide.
Let me see. We had something here.
Paulo's asking if Pruitt's eventually going to be a safety. I don't think so. I think he's going the other way. I think he'll be more and more of a factor at linebacker, but Heatherman is going to do what he does. He's got a different approach. So we got to see how Heatherman likes these guys. But I think Pruitt, he'll grow enough to be a linebacker, I believe. He played this year at linebacker.
I don't know if you mentioned him. Maybe you did, and I didn't realize it. But I think someone who should be mentioned in the big jump from year one to year two, and we've talked about him recently, is Darius Hayes. And I think you'll notice it more with him because he didn't really play that much last year, right? So he's someone who, talking to some people that would know, people that see it every day, like they think that he's someone he's the physicality. That's just not something that you can teach. The size and the physicality. Some guys have the frame, have the height and the weight, but like they don't have that actual pop and the real toughness to them. Hayes has that. It's about actually getting the finesse in his game, which is crazy to think, but like really understanding the position and understanding that you don't have to run through someone every play. Like there is a more of a read and react to the position involved than what he probably did year one, but he's got it.
And another guy where you're talking about Heatherman coming in, installing different systems. Let's see what he looks like in that system. I've always thought he's more of a Big Ten linebacker just because of how physical he is, how instinctive he is against the run. So his ability to get off blocks, his size, his ability to see it, I could see him fitting even better in this Heatherman system, but you don't really know until you see it. You see what Heatherman's trying to do.
Kyle says, question. So up here in Clemson territory, they feel this is going to be the best team since 2019. If Miami doesn't win the ACC this season, will it be a disappointment, or can we just get to the playoff for success?
I mean, look, in this era, any other year, I'd say yes. In this era, getting the playoff is really, key. I mean, you can get farther than the team that wins the conference, right? It's, Oregon won the Big Ten. I'm sure Ohio State's pretty happy with how it turned out. So it's hard to say, right? You just kind of got to see how it plays out. In terms of Clemson, now they're not on the schedule. They're a potential team in the ACC championship game if you get there. I think their offense is going to be sick. Love Cade Klubnik. Love how he finished the year once he started running. He's become a really, really good college quarterback. At pro, I'm not sure, but college is going to be really good. The three receivers are outstanding. You're talking about Williams, Wesco, and Lee. TJ Moore. The young receivers, really, really good. They lose the tight end Briningstool. They lose Phil Maffa. Their offensive line has another year with Matt Luke at the helm, so they should be pretty good. Defensively, they have some guys, Woods, Parker, some good corners as well. I think if we match up against Clemson, the one difference between Clemson now and Clemson in the past is their depth has dropped off quite a bit because they don't use the portal and they're not recruiting as well as they did before, and just their ability to stop the run. I mean, you saw Texas big boy them in the playoffs. You also saw Miami big boy them 2 years ago at the Rock, where they really ran at will with Emory Williams at quarterback. Carson Beck is not Emory Williams. So if there was a hypothetical matchup, if you told me right now, sign up for hypothetical matchup with Clemson in the ACC championship, obviously that'd be great. Because I do think Miami has certain advantages in that matchup, while admitting that Clemson's offense has really, really nice pieces, particularly in the passing game.
Kyle says, return D-line and bring in big upgrade at DC, Tom Allen. Look, man, if you want this sort of analysis, that's our other page, Group Chat Sports. This is Kane's insight.
No, listen, we'll get the plug in, but Group Chat, it's always good to talk this matchup. But yeah, Group Chat Sports. Pete, should let them know, for those who don't know, because we covered the Tom Allen thing.
Let me pull it up. Hold on a second.
Yeah, so me and Pete got a channel we just started, like a month and a half ago. It's already rolling. We're really proud of it and happy with how it's going. Really fun to do, learning about all these different teams. It's called Group Chat Sports Group Chat.
Look at Tano's Bill right here.
Yeah. I mean, it's we did that a couple hours ago there. But these we basically just cover college football generally, in terms of portal, coaching moves, recruiting, all those kind of things. So it gets you know a little bit more of the landscape outside of UM and getting out of that tunnel vision. And certainly Clemson's a team that we've covered. And I think really, to me, it's just Clemson's going to be good, but they used to overwhelm you with depth. And I mean, if you think back to 2017, 16, can you imagine teams just lining up and just punching Clemson in the mouth? That's hard to imagine, but Texas did that this year, and they did it much more effectively than they did against Arizona State, for example. And Miami did it 2 years ago. You know, Ruben Bain and Francis Malinois made their highlight reel against Clemson. So I think they're a formidable team, but I do think that their front would be their weakness. Kyle's talking about Clemson being Miami's talent, equal talent wise. And look, they won it and they didn't have Cam Ward. So you have to give Clemson all the respect in the world for what they've done, because they won the ACC in a year where they really weren't, that good. I mean, Miami had their best quarterback than maybe ever, and they lost. But if you do look at Clemson, 26th in the recruiting rankings this year, which is really on the low side. They usually have very high average player rankings, and they had pretty high average player rankings this time. But Miami at 13 still had a higher average player ranking with more players. And this is not even Miami's best recruiting year. The other years were better. So, I think Clemson's recruiting's taken a step back. And then when you don't have a portal, you're really limiting your ability to stack that front, stack that roster, and have waves of bodies that can get after it.
Omar asks, out of curiosity, just to get away from football for a second, wasn't there an announcement in the recent past about Miami adding new athletics programs? Any update on that? Men's soccer / golf and softball. So there was never anything officially from the school. I think that was all speculation. I had a chance to kind of talk to the big man about this, and I'm not talking about Santa Claus. So I actually had a chance to talk to Radakovich about this specific thing, and I didn't get too in detail about it. But what he told me was, look, Title IX, right? Obviously, we understand that if you're going to add one team, you have to add another team. Men's golf was my first question because I'm a huge golf guy. I'm at the Biltmore all the time, and the women's team is there. And he said, number one, they want a better facility. Not necessarily a better facility, but comparatively to the rest of the ACC, they need something else than what they have right now. That's number one. Number two, if you're going to add a softball team, there's no space there's no space on campus to add a park. That's number one there, right? So you need to add one team or another. There's no space for softball. Men's soccer or golf, it could happen, but you need to have the softball team to be able to do the other. And that's as Canes Cats, he's 305 saying, that's exactly what I'm saying. They don't really, without the space to add the softball, it's pretty hard to do the other thing.
Yeah, this is all complicated, man. You just saw Ross Dellinger put out that story about the Power 4 schools now getting an enforcement arm together. And that's not necessarily linked to what Pete's talking about, other than to say things are changing very fast. The NCAA, as we know it, is gone. So the rules change every 2 seconds. You don't know how these scholarships are going to be used. You don't know what the settlement's going to look like. If you know what it's going to look like, you know it's going to get approved, and if there's going to be changes to it. I mean, this is just such a complicated process and a moving target. It's hard to say anything with finality. I think if you're a school, you try to see how that dust settles before you move on to too many other topics. In terms of moving on, I got to move on to the number one Cuban restaurant in all of Miami, in all the world. Shout out to John Andrade, the owner of Islas Canarias Express. Saw him yesterday. He's a little banged up, had an issue with his appendix. So I saw him He was laid out in the hospital. The guy was paying bills, watching, making sure that the place was running on time. Guy's a total G. That's why this place runs like such a machine. 40 years of tradition, family, and history at Islas Canarias. Don't have to go all the way down south, even though that's the classic way to do it. That's how Anthony Bourdain did it when he did his show on the Food Network. You can go right to Dayland Mall, the dining pavilion. Go check it out at what you might call the food court. Look, they got the new box, they got the new graphics. So many cool things going on at Islas Canarias. 7 types of croquetas. Steak, chicken, pork,
jackfruit, ropa vieja.
Jackfruit, ropa vieja. If you're trying to, keep it healthy. But man, this is the best Cuban restaurant in the world. If you know, you know. Dining Pavilion, Dayland Mall, Islas Canarias Express. Get well, John.
All right, guys. Let's see. Any other?
Yes, this question. We get this question a bunch, and it's got to be emphasized. Will Miami get a number 1 receiver, number 2 in the spring portal to maximize Carson Beck's arm? I would say yes. This would be top of the agenda. Portal after spring. Again, you don't know who's going to get injured. You don't know what things might be different then than they are now. But assume with what you know now, the number 1 agenda item after spring is that number 1 receiver. Last year, you had to add a defensive tackle. You had just lost Jared Harrison Hunt right after spring, which is not a good deal. That was after spring, right? Yeah, he played in spring. So you had to lose Jared Harrison Hunt. You had to replace him. So Barrow became paramount. Fletcher was still not guaranteed to play this year. Lyle wasn't even here yet. So getting a guy like Damian Martinez was paramount. You need to add in another receiver. That's how you saw Sam Brown get in the mix. So there's a lot of work to do after last spring. I think there's going to be maybe less work to do after this spring, hopefully, if no one gets hurt and no unexpected transfers. But that number 1 receiver is the number 1 thing you got to get taken care of, and I think it will. There's going to be a lot of interest in Carson Beck, playing with Carson Beck with this offensive line, especially if you have 4 receivers drafted, which I guess 3 because Horton's not eligible, but you could have up to 3 receivers drafted, which I think is going to help your pitch to future wide receivers.
Carlos Montilla asking, is Miami planning any special events for the opener to commemorate this centennial? So it's actually the centennial for the school and for Coral Gables as well this year. So I don't know that right now, but we have someone we can ask a couple people about that for you, Carlos. It's a good question. They have stuff up around campus though. They have like signage already. So I would imagine there could be something cool to be done with they did with the uniforms. I know they did something for basketball a few years ago that had the the colors of the Coral Gables trolley on it. I remember. So yeah, we'll see. I'll look into that for you.
Got to talk to Vince Lago. He's a Canes Inside listener, the mayor of Coral Gables. Shout out to him. I know he's in a campaign right now. So shout out to Vince Lago.
Is that an endorsement?
I don't know if we're allowed to do that. I don't know if we're allowed. Great guy. And the Canes are winning more. So yeah, all good in Coral Gables.
Listen, that's my zip code, man. I'm all for keeping it how it is now. So
yeah, I'm in Miami Beach. I was in Coral Gables today. I was on campus, and in my head, I'm still the same age as all these people, But then when you go and you're around actual 18 and 19-year-olds, you realize how old you are. So it was a sad event, but place looked great. There's that lake on campus is crazy. I want to get my fishing pole. There's like giant jacks right there.
Yeah, it is. It is crazy. People do it, man. The canals around campus too. So I'm sure you did it growing up.
Oh, all day. Every recruit we talk to, or high school kid, college kid, like Storm Sessions guest, they're all big time fishermen. They all fish those canals for peacock bass. We just interviewed Daniel Cuvée, like I mentioned, or we're going to interview Daniel Cuvée. He's big into that too. It's the thing down here. When you get some of these recruits on the boats, that's the next step.
Hey, with NIL, anything's possible, man.
Yes, sir.
All right. Anything else, D?
No, man. I'm good. Again, appreciate everybody joining us today. We'll keep this thing rolling. I think we might get a new defensive line coach soon. So once that happens, you'll see us go live and talk about that one.
All right, everyone. See you guys later. Keep it locked on canesinsight.com. Remember to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. See you guys tomorrow or later. Who knows?